My name is Cecilia Griego. I work for the City of Bakersfield in the Development Services Department. And I'm here to talk to you about our site reuse and revitalization program. Basically, just a little overview about our program. We got in October of 2017, we were awarded a grant by the U.S. Department of Environmental Protection Agency. And it's a community-wide assessment grant. And basically the city has been using the funds. We developed an inventory, did some site prioritization, we conducted some community outreach, and now we're at the phase where we can conduct site assessments and do some cleanup planning if that's done. The city is also using the grants, like I said, to do environmental assessments on properties that we believe are really prime opportunities for redevelopment. And this map here kind of shows kind of the three focus areas. We really wanted to look at areas where there hasn't been much private investment. You know, there's a lot of vacant land, especially commercial and industrial land. Downtown, kind of along Highway 58, all that industrial use. That is, there's empty warehousing. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and also around our municipal airport. Basically, the program is kind of what the EPA kind of wants to call like a brownfield. But and this is kind of like their very broad, loose definition, and I kind of underlined the word potential because really, a site really doesn't have to be contaminated to use this program. But sometimes sites, when you have a potential buyer, they just don't know what's going on. It's like, why is it sitting vacant here? And, there's maybe a past use that maybe there's potential. It's just an old building built before 1978. Could have asbestos, lead. There's lots of questions. Just helping identify those unknowns. So I don't like to call it brownfields. I like to call them opportunities. So that's what we're hoping to create here. What do opportunities look like? Well, here's some, former auto repair, old warehouses, former ag land, former gas station, former, warehousing, manufacturing uses, former dry cleaners, even former supermarkets. Some people don't realize old refrigerants are sometimes hazardous. Just a vacant lot, you never know what's going on. Abandoned rail properties, former processing, even old schools, again, for those refrigerants. Savage yards, just dump sites, whatever's really, and just any kind of site that's just been sitting there unused. Then I'm going to highlight, these are basically some of the activity that we can use for this funding for. We can do a phase 1 assessment, which is basically identifies those environmental concerns, helps you figure out those unknowns. And if, based on the results of the phase 1, we can also fund a phase 2, which can be very costly. Sometimes, maybe there was a past use where we know there was contaminants and we need to do some sampling. That's where we really, dig into the soil, see what's really there. If it's a vacant building, we can do what they call a hazardous building material. They can test for asbestos, lead, mercury, light ballasts, switches, just old, aging infrastructure that could be harmful. This is our site nomination form, which I have several copies here. So if you have any prime candidates that you think you can use this funding for, at the end of this, I can give out copies of this form. It just gives us a little history, what you know about the site, and we can see if it's a candidate. This is kind of like the process a little bit. You send us the form. We determine its eligibility. It gets shipped to EPA. They just do a quick little, okay, you're good to go. And then we just have to get that access agreement, just letting us know if we can access, because usually even if the phase 1, they do like to just do a walkthrough just to see what comes out at them. And then we can then we start the assessment work, which is usually takes about 2 weeks to get it going. We can work pretty quickly. And then kind of the next phase, let's say you do the phase 1 assessment, may meet potentially a phase 2, but even if you don't need a phase 2, sometimes we can help. Like if there is, well, for example, if there is a phase 2, we can do a cleanup, kind of say, hey, here's your alternatives. This is how you can clean it up. Here are your options. And even if, whether it needs a phase 1 or phase 2, we can also, give you cost estimates. We can kind of give you a marketing strategy. Like here, like help you plan, what do you want to use this property for? We can kind of do it like a visioning, like you see here, a redevelopment plan, implementation strategy. We can even assess utilities and road conditions, what those costs may be. Just really do a market analysis. Hey, will this site support whatever you want to do here, whether it's, it's a grocery store, whatever vision you have for the site. We can help do that initial kind of pre-development site work for you. So basically with this program, we just hope to help you create these great opportunities. And I kind of put these photos, these are kind of great examples of kind of local examples of where you have old buildings. Some of them did, I know the Padre did have lead paint. So stuff like that, these are examples of where reuse success stories, I like to call them. And I know they're all, all three of them are I know one just opened pretty recently, but they're all doing pretty good. So like I said, with both private and public investment, we can encourage encourage capital, kind of what they call, low-income communities or uncapitalized communities or just low investment communities. Provide that incentive for redevelopment. And kind of launch development projects that may not have traditionally penciled out because people are kind of scared of a vacant building. They're worried about those costs. I kind of wanted to segue a little bit because I don't know if you guys heard about opportunity zones. And a lot of those, what we discovered when we did our brownfield inventory is pretty much a lot of our focus area is in these federally designated opportunity zones. And basically these were created in 2017 by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. They're basically in these zones, they created a tax incentive to encourage the use of capital gains investment. Basically in what they call low-income, kind of undercapitalized communities where you just don't see much private investment. So here are our designated, they're census tracts, so here are our designated opportunity zones. And just to give you a little, I'm not an expert, please, I just want to say about these zones, but I did, this is just to give you a brief overview. If you Google, federal opportunity zones, you can find a wealth of information, but just to give you a little overview, basically the incentive it created is, let's say somebody sells an asset, property, whatever it is, they get $10 million in capital gains. If they invest that in a qualified opportunity fund, within 180 days, they're eligible for this incentive, which basically means if you keep it, you invest your capital gains in 5 years, your tax amount, your taxable amount on that 10 million falls 10%. If you keep it in 7 years, it falls 15%. If you keep it in 10 years, it becomes completely tax exempt. So basically, you don't have to pay any taxes on that $10 million. So basically, like I said, Brownfields investment opportunity. Because basically, many vacant sites or buildings are located in opportunity zones, and hopefully by layering it, we can see that private investment. In the opportunity funds, it can cover those pre-development costs, like site demolition, asbestos abatement, this brownfields cleanup activity. Like you can use our program to do that testing work, use an opportunity fund to help do if there's needed, any of that additional cleanup work. This is kind of my example for, like, let's say it's of a redevelopment investment. So basically, in a qualified fund, they purchase a vacant office building in the opportunity zone. The purchase of the building is $1 million. of the $1 million, 60% is the building value, 40% is the land value. So, and then you have that kind of, once you make that purchase, you have 30 months to make an substantial improvement. Basically, you just start doing whatever you do to redevelop it and raise that value of that building. So therefore, if you do it within that 30-month period, and what they define as the substantial improvement is within the first month after the purchase, an additional $600,000 of improvements are done. So basically, you kind of invest what you buy and kind of double the value, complete, and then you can. That's the test of what they call substantial improvement. So it really pushes you to do that development and private investment in the property. Basically, they kind of see opportunities of helping fill that financial gap. Like, here's your debt, here's your equity, and there's opportunity zone equity. So you can use it, to help fill those gaps, address, like I said, insufficient equity, cover burdens that you didn't, soil conditions, cover those burdens that maybe a brownfield property has. Attract investment in new emerging markets and neighborhoods, like we're kind of seeing in that Eastchester area. That's not an area where you don't always see private investment, but now we've seen it, so maybe we can encourage more, or in other neighborhoods in the city where you see it. Okay, and then this is where I wanted to show you the state has actually done quite a good idea to try to highlight, because these are, it's pretty competitive. This is a nationwide program. And California definitely wanted to highlight, hey, we have opportunity zones. So this is where you can create kind of profiles about maybe a property that you have for sale. So you can go to this website. You can create your own profile account. You can join maybe the Bakersfield Association Realtor. I misdid the name, but can create their own organization. You can be an account member in that organization. You can join the Place Networks, which is where you say, hey, I'm in Bakersfield. So you just kind of, there's tutorials on it and videos that can kind of walk you through it. I just showed what the Bakersfield. So basically, you can create profiles, and once you do, I don't know if you can see it. It says it'll populate this map with little dots. It'll populate the map with little dots, and then people say, oh, what's going on here? You can click it. So when you create your and that's what they'll see. For example, like here's one, Hollywood. I mean, you can even upload documents, presentations, information about the site. Here's this, hey, we have a shovel-ready site, 15-unit apartment building. I saw that article in the California a couple of days ago, how the demand for rental housing is not keeping up. That's not keeping up. So, this is definitely a good way to highlight, say, hey, I have land that we can put some from a housing, any kind of housing, really. So this is, and this is, you can make these as long. You can put your contact information. So I encourage you to log into, it's called OpSites. It's, I'll share this and you guys can have all the web links. And then there's an email if you have questions. It says hello@opsites.com. So I encourage you to do this, highlight, properties, encourage investors. You say you have a property that's been for sale, 2 years, just nobody's interested. This might help, if it's in an opportunity zone, this might encourage a buyer, because it definitely, these funds can fund acquisitions. Also, if you want to take a more proactive approach, these are current listings of opportunity zone investors. These are people of capital gains, because they want to work fast, because I think there's a time limit. Once they have this capital gains, they have to get it, moving pretty quickly. I forget the timetable, but it's like the IRS is really giving them a short window to move once they sell that asset. So these are directories, a couple of directories of where you can find people with money to spend. That's basically it. If you have questions, there's my contact information, or you may have any questions.
Whenever they do the substantial improvements, Is that, I know a lot of that could be sweat equity.
Yeah.
And how does that quantify? How do you prove that? So, and who's the judge?
Basically, it's all defined by the IRS. There's a part, a guidebook. Yeah, a code. It's all defined in the IRS code. So I encourage you to talk to a tax professional because it is a tax incentive. So, or maybe if you go to that opportunity fund investor, go to one of them. They might be able to tell you, okay, here's the rules behind these funds. They can tell you more. I just kind of know the basics. I'm not an expert, so I definitely encourage you to kind of, do your homework or talk to a tax professional who maybe know more about that. So
how long does it take typically from the application to being able to start a phase one?
Oh gosh, we've been able to do it within a week or two. We just look at the site navigation form, just saying, yeah, it looks good. Then we send it to the EPA. And she usually, within a week, she just has to have her attorneys bless it. So it looks good, meets the qualifications for the program, and usually they can get started. And usually it takes them about a month to 2 months to get it done. So.
And if, say, it's a buyer that has a property in escrow, are they able to apply for the same type of thing, even though they don't own the property yet, if they're doing investigation?
As long as we have a sign off on the property owner, we just need the property owner consent that we can do it, then yeah. But yeah. So any other questions? No? All right. Well, I'll send the association a PDF of this PowerPoint. So, and hopefully she can share it out. And if you guys have any questions, like I said, there's my contact information, and I have business cards if you want those, or if you want site nomination forms, I have those here too. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.